And I'm talking, like I said, emotional investment in expectation. So, I mean, I see people that are driving on the road, and they talk about road rage all the time, and road rage is just another form of expectation. In the person that's driving, they expect other drivers to react and act a certain way. And a lot of the time it is to get out of my way, right? Because I'm in a hurry, you shouldn't be driving slower than me, and so therefore I'm getting pissed off at you because you're not following my dynamic. And the expectation is they should be driving better in your estimation, or the driver's estimation, and that it should look a certain way. So we're going into now fitting things into boxes again, because that's all expectation does. When you create expectations in your life, and especially emotional expectations, that you actually place your own self-worth in, or your own desires to be or feel happy and better. Like, the driver's not feeling happy because the other drivers aren't doing what he wants them to. Like I said, the same thing goes with relationships. Exactly the same. It's not. It's like relationships are like road rage. Isn't that cool? But the expectation builds a box. It builds these walls, because then you're saying, in essence, you don't love me unless. Right? You don't love me unless you fit into this little box. Right? And that's a box of not only your own making, but your parents' making and all of that stuff, because they're the ones that demonstrated all this stuff to you. They're, your peers. Getting teased at school builds these boxes. Everything. The expectation that we create builds this little world that we think everything should fit into. And I mean, you take a look at the driver that's driving down the road. He's got this little box of expectation of what everybody else should be doing in accordance to him. So he has an idea of what everybody else in the world should be doing in accordance to him, and what is going to facilitate him moving forward, or him getting into the place that he needs to be, or getting there on time, or whatever it is in his mind that he's already frustrated with. Because the expectation is that he should get there on time, and if he's not going to get there on time, then it's everybody else's fault and everybody else was in my way. As opposed to saying, hey, life happens, and these people are reacting certain ways, and what can I do? Not really much, other than, get angry, get out of my car and shoot people. Yippee. Which is kind of an irrational thing to do, but I mean, it does happen. People get so angry that they go out of their way and ram people, and I mean, it gets pretty bad sometimes. I mean, we just had an incident here in BC where somebody did that. It was a road rage incident where a guy got out and shot a guy and his wife. Right? Just got out of the car because the guy, he thought the guy cut him off or something. And boom, gone. And that's a box. That's this huge amount of rage. And the box just sort of tips it over. Right? It's just like everybody's against me, and this is just proof. But this is what expectation does to us. It creates a box. It creates a top to the box, and if you don't fit in that box, then you're wrong, or you shouldn't be in my life. So I'm going to go into, with expectation, we talk about how this affects relationships, and relationships are just huge expectational boxes. And the funny thing is it actually even gets worse generally when people get married. I'm a DJ, and I've been to lots of weddings, and I've watched the weddings happen. I've seen how, I've seen how they, they're reacting at the wedding and how they're doing and all of that stuff. And I bump into some of them years later, and there was one couple they were together seven years before they got married, and lived in bliss. They had a great time. They didn't have any problem with each other. They lived together for 7 years. They had known each other for years and years before that. And within 2 years of them getting married, divorced. Didn't like each other. I mean, I ran into one of them and it's just like, oh no, it didn't work out and stuff like that. And in my head, I'm going, you were together 7 years. And when I talked to them initially, they were in bliss. They could not have been any happier with each other. And then they got married, and all of a sudden the tide shifted. Their expectations shifted. All of a sudden they stopped trying to please each other, or they stopped being grateful for what they had, and it all turned into this big expectation of, well, now that you're my husband, you should be XYZ. Now that you're my wife, you should be XYZ. And what happens also in that whole, that when they release that and get everything sort of into expectation, it's as if they stop trying. They stop trying to open the hearts. Then the mundane things creep in, and oh, I've got to go to work, oh, we've got to look after the kids, blah, 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 right? But there is no gratitude in the people being together. There's just, oh, that's what she should do, she's my wife. Or that's what he should do, he's my husband. But we fall into these patterns that our parents taught us when we were growing up, because we were wonderful little sponges. As we grew up, we watched our parents and what they did and how dysfunctional their relationship was, right? And not all relationships are dysfunctional. I can reasonably say that most are, though. So we all of a sudden we get married, and we have this expectational box that just closes around us, and our attitudes literally change from boyfriend-girlfriend to mother-father or married couple. And it's like having a Rubik's Cube, and like, you know you're dated for 7 years and you've got 4 or 5 sides done, right? And the 6th side is almost done, right? Or you've got 4 sides and you got 2 sides with just 1 square. And then you get married, and it's like somebody just redid it, messed it up, and now you're starting from scratch again, but you're using a different Rubik's Cube. It's all of a sudden you've picked up the round one, which works a little bit differently than that one. And so, but it's what expectation really does. And expectation is a relationship killer. Big time a relationship killer.